Hello and welcome to the People's Wrestling Podcast, or welcome back if you are a previous listener of our audio-only stuff. What we're doing at the moment, or what we're trying now for 2021, where everything's changed, everyone is not where we would like to be in the same room. We're starting out on YouTube for the first time ever, so hi to you all. As you can see, there's 3 of us. So for those of you who don't know us, my name is Aidan. I will be taking over the host duties from Ali, who previously would do it when he could be bothered. A little about me. I'm 25, so I'm the youngest of the group. I started watching wrestling very young, I guess, basically from when I was born, because Ali, who is my brother, was also watching it. So, yeah, I've been watching since probably around about late 90s, 2000-ish. I watched a shit ton of it throughout the 2000s, and then kind of lapsed a little bit in the early couple years of 2010 to about 2012. But then, since then, I've been pretty much regular, and we've been doing the podcast now for nearly 4 years. 3.5 years since August 2017 was our first episode. I think I have no idea what episode number this is, but I think
we're approaching 100.
Yeah.
Believe it or not. I think this is like 94.
Yeah, we're getting there. We haven't done an episode, for those of you who haven't listened. We haven't done an episode since March 2020.
Since coronavirus.
Which is why I think
I'm not sure what happened around that sort of time that made us all stop recording, but something did. Can't put my finger on it.
We just got, busy. Other things happen. Plans change.
There's always something to change, to be there. So.
Exactly. But no, we haven't done an episode since March. Well, the last thing we did was review the Elimination Chamber pay-per-view. So that's...
Can't even remember it. God knows what happened.
That's why we are currently trying out this YouTube thing. So we're all apart. We're going to have to do it over a Google Meets call in this instance. So we thought might as well record and try something new. Yes, exactly. Use Google Meets, it's good. So that's a bit about me and a bit about the podcast and a bit about Google Meets. Ali, would you mind just giving the listeners a little bit of a description about yourself and how you fell in and out of love with wrestling?
Okay, yeah, so as Aidan so gleefully mentioned earlier, he's taken over hosting detail for the foreseeable from myself, who used to host in previous episodes. Most of the time I was host, apart from when I was on one of my occasional holidays. I say occasional because they feel like a lifetime ago now. I am not 25, as I again pointed out. I'm significantly older. I'm actually 32, believe it or not. Yeah. But I started watching wrestling. Probably one of my earliest memories, in fact, of my whole entire life is watching wrestling. That's how long ago it was since I started wrestling. One of the earliest ones for me was Royal Rumble 1994, which, looking back on things, hasn't aged particularly well or gracefully. But it was a significant memory for me because I remember being absolutely scared shitless of The Undertaker, and that was his casket match of Yokozuna at that pay-per-view, where he famously ascended to the heavens, / Marty Jannetty ascended to the heavens, and gave that famous rebirth speech, which still gives me chills to this day, which I'm sure Matt can attest to. I sort of fell out of love with wrestling. Well, I say fell out of love. I grew out of it when I was about 8.
For wrestling.
Yeah, I went to university and was introduced to nightlife and drinks, things like that. Who knew? Apparently there was something else in the world. But I would say I didn't properly become reinvested in wrestling until Aiden pointed me in the direction of a little something called Daniel Bryan. That storyline revolving around him and the Authority and heading into WrestleMania 30. In fact, I think it may have just been after WrestleMania 30, actually. So I never really got to see that in its full glory. But ever since then, I've been a fully paid up member of the WWE Universe. And, this year's been tough. Last couple of years have been tough. tough, but hey, you used to say bigger things aren't replicable, right?
Yeah, I think it's probably around about the inception of the WWE network that I think helped pull you back in.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, I feel I was just waiting for something to spend my money on.
$9.99. But yeah, I think that also helped me when I was first kind of getting back into it. I started getting back into it a couple of years before the network came out, so I was looking at old pay-per-views and stuff online and just thought I didn't have a lot to do with my spare time.
The old days where you'd go online and try and find them.
Yeah, exactly. I think
I didn't have a VHS player anymore, so I couldn't watch my recordings from TV.
So yeah, that's the story of Ali and myself. But Matt, who by the way is both Ali and I's cousin, is also.
I thought you were going to go with the oldest member of the group.
Who is the oldest member of the group? Matt, would you like to share a little bit about yourself for our new or lapsed or recurring listeners?
Yep, so I'm Matt, I'm 35. Ooh, it sounds no wrong to be saying that. I've been watching since I got a videotape in 1993 of King of the Ring and fell in love with Bret Hart straight away.
I like that.
That was my inception into the WWE, and then I have been a fan ever since. I've never grown out of it. I found that you could get pissed and watch wrestling. It was great.
I've only recently discovered this.
So sometimes it's better when you're pissed, because sometimes it's shit.
Yeah, to be honest, I think it's considerably better when you're pissed. And Ali's also discovered the art of watching wrestling, getting pissed, and falling asleep mid-WrestleMania. So that's the triumvirate.
In my defence, it was Brock versus Roman. So.
Yeah, only the main event that we'd been up for almost 24 hours for. But speaking of WrestleMania, Matt has been to 2 of them. One of them was with us. The other
one was with Steve.
We went to.
Hi, Steve.
We have the distinct honour of going to the last WrestleMania with a crowd. Almost 2 years ago.
Which seems like a lifetime ago.
I know, it's
amazing. When I think of it, I think, oh God, how long ago was that? And then I think actually it wasn't even quite 2 years ago yet. It just seems ridiculous.
Yeah, I know. It's crazy to think about. But yeah, we went to WrestleMania. We'll do closer to the time to WrestleMania. We'll talk about our time there, what we can and can't remember.
Some of us remember more than others.
Yeah, I also discovered drinking during wrestling.
On that one night.
I mean, it wasn't a new thing to me. It was just there was a lot more of it that night. There wasn't even a lot more of it. It was just probably an equal amount of it just crammed into a shorter time.
Yeah. Not that anyone would describe WrestleMania as a short time.
No.
It was fucking cold.
Time.
Yes, it was.
So yeah, we'll touch on that in a future episode for those of you who are interested. But that's not the topic that we're going to be discussing today. Obviously, the thing.
Also, I'd like to throw out there, I'm the only one that has wrestling belts as well. So I'm definitely a lifer. I'm the only one that has 4 belts.
You've certainly invested way more of your money and time into wrestling than probably myself and Aiden have over the course of our lives. So.
Yes, I imagine I have.
Yeah, that's a undisputed. Anyway.
We'll get on to your belt collection in a future episode, Matt, I reckon.
Yeah. It's not that impressive, but...
That'll be a nice 5-minute episode.
Stories about trying to get them signed by specific people as well. I think we did that.
I don't know if Matt's ready to relive that pain.
Still living that pain.
But right, as I said, WrestleMania or Championship belts isn't the topic that we're going to be talking about today. The main thing we're going to be discussing, of course, is the Royal Rumble, because we're in late January. It's Royal Rumble season, which then obviously leads us down to the road to WrestleMania.
My second favourite pay-per-view?
The Royal Rumble?
Yep.
I bloody love. I love the Royal Rumble. It's always the thing I'm most excited for, to be honest.
I mean, who doesn't love a countdown from 10 and then a massive alarm at the end?
Apart from in the morning when you're waking up.
And then someone's shit coming out.
Unless it's a Iron Man match with Seth Rollins and Dolph Ziggler, where the crowd decide to do it every minute on the minute to the point where they get rid of the scoreboard. In that case, we don't love a 10 countdown. But so we're going to be talking about the Royal Rumble. We're not just talking about 2021's Royal Rumble. We will get onto that later on. We'll do some predictions on certain elements of Rumble matches. What we're going to start off with, though, is what we decided to do was talk about, as we are of varying ages, Matt being the oldest, Ali in the middle, and me the youngest, we would take Rumble matches from 3 different decades, pick the best one of that decade, or what we think is the best one of that decade, pit them against each other and see which one comes out on top, really.
I really shot myself in the foot with this one, didn't I?
It was your idea.
Your idea, Matt. You gave yourself the 90s category.
So as Matt is the oldest, he picked the 90s. Ali gets to choose a Rumble match from the 2000s, and I choose one from the 2010s. Shall we do this in chronological order? Start with. Okay, so Matt, you had a Royal Rumble. This is just a match, not the whole pay-per-view. So Matt, you have chosen which Rumble match?
1992. I felt it was the only one that I could pick. It was the best out of the lot. It was the first time that the WWF, at the time, title was on the line for the winner. So, that going into it was pretty big. I mean, we had some big names in it. Say again?
Only replicated once, right, with Roman Reigns, or have they done it another time?
I think it's just that time.
Yeah, it's only been done another time. We had some big names in it. We had Undertaker in it. We had HBK, British Bulldog, Hacksaw Jim Duggan, Jake the Snake, $1 Million Man, Roddy Piper, Big Boss Man, and obviously it came down to the final 4 of Macho Man, Ric Flair, Hulk Hogan, and Sid Vicious at the time, I think it was.
I'm not sure if it was Sid Vicious or Sid Justice. I never know when he changed over.
No.
I mean, Sid. They all do.
Sid. It wasn't Psycho Sid yet.
Yeah, it wasn't Psycho Sid yet. But out of all of them 4, Ric Flair ended up winning.
After coming in at number 3.
Coming in number 3. I mean, the story that was told throughout the commentary between Bobby the Brain Heenan and Gorilla Monsoon was some top-notch commentary. I think if you could get them to comment on this year's, it would be fantastic. I think them 2 were... Say again?
You know, mean feat to get them to commentate on this year's Royal Rumble.
Well, yeah, unfortunately, yeah, both of them have passed away.
I mean, weirder things have happened in the last year or so.
Yeah, exactly.
We'll
people did the announcement for a match of Backlash, right? So
we'll do a Kanye, and we'll just get a hologram of dead wrestling announcers, get them to talk about how great we are.
And also has one of the best promos at the end.
Yeah, it's quite rare.
It is iconic.
Yeah, it's iconic, and it's also quite rare, I think, for a Royal Rumble winner to do a promo after the match. It doesn't really happen, especially these days. It tends to just be the celebration that closes the show.
And the point to the sign.
The fireworks and all that stuff.
On that pay-per-view, was the Royal Rumble match the last match on the card?
Yes.
It's interesting that they didn't do the whole promo backstage afterwards, because it would feel slightly anticlimactic, I think.
Well, I think, to be honest, the winner just sort of got pushed to the back, because the big story was Hogan and Vicious in the ring, like, fighting at the end.
Hogan having a temper tantrum.
They sort of just went, all right, Ric Flair's going now, he's the champion, and then they did a whole thing backstage with him.
Is it like...
Which I think is better.
It's a bit like after the Montreal Screwjob when they were like, Sean wins, let's go.
Yeah, see ya.
So yeah,
Good choice, man.
I think it is very well known and one of the most popular Rumbles. You think of the poster, you can see all of the legendary entrants in the Rumble. I mean, you've got, like you mentioned, you've got British Bulldog, Ted DiBiase, Ric Flair, Shawn Michaels, fucking Roddy Piper, Jake Roberts, Jimmy Snuka, Undertaker, Randy Savage, Virgil.
I mean, you've got some shit ones in there as well. The Barbarian, the Warlord.
Yeah, there's
There's a few.
Hercules. There's a few. But yeah, overall it is quite well regarded. I don't know, it was the first time, because Ric Flair went an hour and 2 seconds. It was the first time someone went over an hour. I know
He was
Bob
the
Backlund
longest
did it.
up to that point.
Yeah. So, historic in terms of that
Because-
sense.
Because Boyd Brainheen does mention that, I think it was, I can't think who it was, someone the year before had gone 49 minutes.
I know Backlund did a really long one. I think that might, let me just have a quick look. Bob Backlund.
I don't think it was Bob Backlund. I think it was the one.
Rick Martel did 52.17.
Rick Martel, yeah, that's it.
I think he came second in the year before.
Who?
Rick Martel. Or at least in one of the previous Rumbles he did.
I don't know, I've closed the Wikipedia page, I can't remember off the top of my head.
I'll find that out.
There were some other good stories in some Rumbles. 98, 99 were pretty good with Stone Cold.
Yeah,
98 is the one that sticks out in my mind, I think, is one that I thought might push 92 close for you.
Yeah, that was the one that I thought, ooh, I thought don't go obvious, but then when I actually watched them back, I was like, oh, you've got to go with this one.
98, I guess, was one of the first examples, or at least that I can remember, excluding this 92 one, of a story going into and also during the Rumble match of the bounty
Which I
on
like.
Stone Cold.
I like that there's a story.
Yeah, I think the Rumbles are much better when there's a story or a thread that goes all the way through. And yeah, because this was the year that Stone Cold had that bounty on him, wasn't it? Was it?
That was 99.
99, yeah.
But everyone wanted to beat him in 98. Like,
Yeah,
he
that's
pissed a lot of people off going into it.
yeah. I think that's what I mean. Yeah, and then that was also one of the earlier examples. That was kind of like a breakout performance for The Rock, because he came to the final two, didn't he? He'd been in it for like 45 minutes, and
And he'd also wrestled earlier in the night as well.
yeah, so quite impressive stuff when you think about it. But yeah,
But fuck The Rock.
I don't really think there's any. Oh yeah, we should probably mention that now. Matt is one of the few people on Earth who doesn't like The Rock.
Thinks The Rock's a prick.
It's
Yeah.
almost become a sort of moniker for you, hasn't it? That it's your go-to, it's your gimmick, that you are the guy who hates The Rock.
I am the guy that hates The Rock. There are many.
Who transcends the wrestling business and probably is now even more well known for his acting skills, and generally known as being a lovely guy. You just can't stand.
He's a prick.
We were just talking about just before.
And he sucks as a movie star as well.
I mean, we were just talking about just before we started recording that Matt wanted was considering getting knuckle tattoos. I reckon you should get "fuck Rock" across them.
I haven't got enough.
Move into the palms for that. So yeah, there's a reason why Matt hates The Rock, or multiple reasons why Matt hates The Rock. We'll leave it for your interpretation, for your imagination for now.
I mean, I could do a whole episode. I might even do a whole episode of why I fucking hate The Rock.
We'll do an episode where you do a point on things you don't like about The Rock, and Ali and I will counter it with things we do like, and then we'll just go back and forth for however long we can.
I reckon I can roll off more things I hate about him than you like.
Yeah, I think you are considerably more passionate about the subject than than I would be, but yeah, I mean, I don't mind. I think he's quite cool, but you know,
Fuck Dwayne Johnson, he's a prick.
each to their own. So anyway, yeah, Matt's choice 92 Rumble, I think, is a pretty good one to start us off with. is it the best one of all time when you look at it as a match? I don't know.
Probably
Ali,
not.
Ali,
But I gave myself the
yeah,
shit task of doing the 90s.
yeah, self-inflicted. So,
To be fair, I wanted to go back and watch and think, I remember watching these when I was a kid. But yeah, how blind was I to wrestling when I was a kid?
I find that a lot. I was like, this thing was so awesome, and then I go back and I'm like, oh.
This is shit.
But every now and then you get one where you think, oh shit, that was so cool as a kid, and then you're like, oh my god, this is still so cool. But yeah, I think the Royal Rumble holds up. But is it better than Ali's or my Royal Rumble pick? So we'll go next to the 2000s. With Ali and your pick. I think there's a few decent Rumbles to choose from this year. They really stepped up this in this decade. I mean, so which one have you gone for and why?
Well, so kind of picking up where Matt left off with the 90s, talking about the sort of 98, 99 Rumbles, they were the first ones really to come with a story. The ones preceding that, aside from probably 92, where the story solely was winning the WWF title, the ones in the early 2000s specifically, there really was a sort of increase in the amount of storytelling going on in the actual Rumble match itself. So, there was quite a few options. So the past week or so, I've been going back over the 2000s and reliving what would be my teenage wrestling memories. And there's one real standout Royal Rumble that everybody would probably pick because it's generally seen as, if not the best, at least up there with the best Rumbles ever, and that's 2001. Now I can see why, but what I wanted to do today was not be so obvious. So in my research I've done, because personally, I remember 2001 being a great Rumble. We did an episode back in the day on it. I think when Matt was away 1 week, myself and Aidan, we did one.
Check that out in the archive.
Check that out in the archives, yeah. It's a great Rumble, no doubt about it. But
Great Rumble as a whole as well. Great pay-per-view, not just like a one-match show.
But, just running down the entrance in the actual Rumble match itself in 2001, what I did realise is there's a lot of big stars in it, but there's also a lot of filler. And actually, when that filler was basically the whole Rumble match, maybe it's not as good as people remember. So there's a reason why I've chosen a different Rumble, and I'll go into it. But just listing some of the entrants from that Rumble, Kane, The Rock, Big Show, The Undertaker, and Stone Cold are the big stars. And Kane really with not a breakout performance because he'd been in the WWE for 4 years by then, but longer if you count Isaac Yankem. But with the record elimination.
Spoiler alert, Jesus.
I know. They are the same, man. But what
Ain't no kayfabe around here.
What you also ended up with was large periods of time between those stars. So Kane came in at 6, and then The Rock came in at 13. In between then, you had Raven, Al Snow, Saturn, Steve Blackman, Grandmaster Sensei, and the Honky Tonk Man.
But didn't they turn it hardcore?
They did. It was, that was the first time. That was interesting, entertaining. And then between The Rock and the Big Show, there's 10 places. And that's The Good Father, Taz, Bradshaw, Albert, Hardcore Holly, Kate Quick, Val Venus, William Regal, and Test. And it's kind of the theme throughout. Between the Big Show and the Undertaker, there's Crash Holly. Between the Undertaker and Stone Cold, there's Scotty 2 Hotty. Ending with Billy Gunn, Haku, and Rikishi as the final 3 entrants. I think if you take away Stone Cold, the Rock, that's the Kane Undertaker story throughout, you're really left with a pretty poor roster. Not poor,
you gotta have some shitty filler. You have to have some shitty filler.
And you've also got to remember, in this show, you didn't get wrestlers performing double duty. So the ones who weren't included were, you had Chris Jericho and Chris Benoit in an Intercontinental Championship match.
Oh, we're throwing his name out there.
He did exist. And you've also got Kurt Angle versus Triple H as well for the world title. So those are 4 of the era, 4 stars that obviously would have been in that match if they didn't have other prior commitments, which would have fleshed out the field with a bit more quality or star power, you might say.
Yeah, for sure.
So there is that element of at least 4 guys, and with the Undertaker being injured as well, a couple of guys not being able to make the match. But yeah, I think they still did pretty well to make it feel like a big deal. I think the spacing them out probably helped with that, because if you had 2 of the big ones come in like 2 or 3 entrants apart, then you've got like 15 in a row of nobodies really. Then it'd be a bit more boring. But I think the spacing out was probably necessary.
So what have you gone with?
So I didn't feel like I could go with 2004 just for obvious reasons.
It was actually a very good match.
It's a very good Rumble. So I've actually gone with 2005. The reason being, if I run down probably the list of big stars in it.
Well, the only reason you've got a list is Vince's quads.
The actual list of competitors probably reads more impressive nowadays than it did back then. But I'll tell you why. So 1 and 2 we had at Benoit. I mean, you couldn't wish for a better pairing to start a Royal Rumble off. You had Edge, Rey Mysterio, Booker T, Chris Jericho, Shawn Michaels, Kurt Angle, John Cena, Kane, Batista, and Ric Flair in this Royal Rumble. Like, that's a lot of star power. Other ones, Luther Reigns, Roman's big brother, Mohammed Hussein, Orlando Jordan, Scotty T. White. Not so much, but the reason why I enjoyed this one significantly more is because they interspersed action and coaching. They interspersed the big stars with some really interesting and fun parts of it. So number 3 entrant was Daniel Puder, the guy who won Tough Enough Series 3, I think it was.
He's the one that had the match with Kurt Angle, weren't he?
Yeah, he did so many favours.
Proceeded to get the absolute shit walloped out of him by Benoit, Guerrero, and Hardcore Holly.
Exactly, yeah. So
they fucked him up.
To the point where it was kind of hard to watch.
This was a fun part of the Rumble. I called it the top for him. It was. I called it the top Rumble because that was all they did for like 5 minutes was just chop the shit out of it.
I think it was Hardcore Holly's idea of fun.
Yeah, exactly. That's all he wanted.
Well, wrestlers have to pay their dues.
Getting to beat up a less experienced wrestler and getting to do it in front of a crowd and not getting in trouble for it. Like, I couldn't think of anything better.
One of the things I learned whilst looking into this Royal Rumble is that the reason for this segment in the Royal Rumble was because apparently Daniel Puder had been beating Hardcore Holly on the house show circuit and then had been bragging to his friends about it as if it was real or as if it was not predetermined. So yeah, you got Jimmy Jimmy Wang Yang to help to thank for Daniel Puder getting his ass beat like that because they were riding together and he snitched on him to Hardcore Holly. So so moving on from that, you've got Edge and Rey Mysterio coming in at 7 and 8 and Booker T at 10. Between then, you've got Shelton Benjamin as well, so no slouch. Booker T, then Jericho. And then there is a bit of a lull, but the good thing they did was they stuck Mohammed Hassan in, who at that time was getting nuclear heat from the crowd. And then I should mention that I think this Royal Rumble was in Philly. Was it in Philly? I'm not sure actually. No, it was in Fresno, California. But the crowd was well up for everything, including Ahmed Hassan getting his absolute ass kicked by everybody in the Royal Rumble. So a feel-good part of the Royal Rumble. Then slightly after that, you had Simon D. Again, not a big star, potentially not a very good wrestler, but a funny part where he did some squats, then a warm up on the outside, only for Shawn Michaels to eliminate him, and then jump around the ring doing squats. Funny stuff.
This is one of the things I was going to say.
Funny shit.
I feel like every good Rumble has a bit of comedy, at least one funny element to it. I'll get to mine later on when we talk about mine, but mine definitely has that.
Mine was Hulk Hogan having a tantrum.
There's many of those you can pick out.
Then
you get. Sorry, you go.
Actually, no. I'll let you continue in case you touch on it.
Okay. That's what she said. You get the first one of the reboot.
And we're back.
You get the whole Shawn Michaels Kurt Angle, which led up to a fantastic match at WrestleMania. So you can't really discount that.
That's exactly what I was going to say. If you were disappointed by Kurt Angle only lasting 37 seconds when he came in like a house on fire and looked like he was going to absolutely destroy everyone, if you were disappointed at him getting eliminated so quickly, the program and subsequent WrestleMania match, I think, more than makes up for that.
Definitely. That was followed by Jonathan Cochran and Mark Jindrak and Viscera, but followed by Paul London, which then gives us one of the more iconic eliminations that you're ever going to see in the Royal Rumble, and to this day you still see on montages, with Snitsky absolutely cleaning his clock.
It's his fault, to be fair.
Another fact about this Royal Rumble, that elimination did not go down well with the higher-ups for Paul London, who subsequently didn't have the best of WWE careers following it. Michael Hayes' exact words were, that was really good. In fact, it was too good. So they were pissed. They felt he was stealing the spotlight.
That's such WWE logic. The amount of times you've heard stuff like that, where someone is too good, or they do something that is really good, but it wasn't what they wanted, so you're basically out the door.
Exactly.
It's a bit ridiculous.
Following on from that, then John Cena in his second Royal Rumble, I think it was. This time coming into the match a strong favourite and a big fan favourite as well as US champion. Snitsky, then Kane and Batista. Now Batista, I didn't realise this at the time, but Batista was so over. The crowd were hot for him. He was the star going into it.
It's easy to
Not
forget
always
as
the
well.
way in Royal Rumbles.
It's easy to forget as well that he was still part of Evolution and heel stable.
Yeah, he was. He was still in Triple H's band of Bros with Ric Flair as well.
There's just been those early signs of discontent between the group, and fans just latched onto them.
Randy Orton had been, pushed out of the group, and in fact, him and Triple H had the World Heavyweight Championship match on this card. Triple H won. Kane and Batista, and then the last two were Christian and Ric Flair. I mean, Ric Flair, a legend, but at this point, not a real threat to win the Royal Rumble. And now, the reason I sort of said earlier that this Royal Rumble probably it reads more impressively now than it did back then, is that lots of these people have gone on to become big stars, Hall of Famers, and legends. So Eddie Guerrero, Chris Benoit, Edge, Booker T, Shawn Michaels, Kurt Angle, Batista, all in the Hall of Fame, as far as I'm aware.
There was men ago in last year.
Not from Benoit, but so. At the time, it might not have felt like the most impressive roster, especially when you compare it to 2001. But actually, looking back on it, I think it certainly more than holds its own. The ending, I mean, I can't not talk about the ending. Obviously, this is probably one of the more famous watches in WWE history.
Infamous, it's become.
I mean, they could only have wished for this when Bret Hart and Luger did it, and they didn't want it to happen in. When Big Show and The Rock did it.
The Rock did it, yeah. But, I mean, it was so perfectly executed botch that even though the camera, because Batista was meant to stay in the match, he was meant to hold on to the ropes, the cameras were positioned to capture the elimination perfectly. And even with all those camera replays, you still cannot see if anyone touched the ground before the other. It's so perfectly done, even though it was a complete accident.
Because if you think that if Cena or Batista had hit half a second earlier, and they've got clear replays showing that, well, they either A, wouldn't show the replays if it went against the result that they wanted, or B, they wouldn't be able to deny that Cena won the Royal Rumble.
But I think that's what pissed Vince McMahon off. There was no clear winner, and he couldn't go with that storyline.
So again,
it'd have been quite easy to go with a storyline if someone hits first.
Yeah.
You can have a match and then sort it out.
I think what makes it so good is how well they improvise. I can't remember. I think it was Bruce Pritchard or something on one of his podcasts talking about this and said how the whole Raw referees doing it with Batista and SmackDown going for Cena thing. One of the referees called that on the fly, I think.
Yeah, so I was reading some facts about this Royal Rumble match itself. Firstly, the thing that got Vince so pissed off, obviously the botch itself and the fact that Batista hadn't been clear winner, was that everyone was scrambling around backstage looking for Eric Bischoff and or Teddy Long, or both really, and they were nowhere to be found. No one could find them.
Just like, fuck it, I'll do it myself.
Vince had to go out himself, and we all know what happened then.
Have you not heard of what happened after?
Well, supposedly he only tore one quadricep getting into the ring, his right one. When he was walking back, he decided that he was, he's Vince McMahon, so he's impervious to pain. So he's just going to try and walk on it. And as he did that, he compensated on his left quad and won that one.
Yeah, but Edge has told a story that they were all backstage when it all happened. And I think it was Michael Hayes told them all to fuck off, because if he comes back through this, he's going to be fucking pissed. He said, so if you want to keep your jobs, he said, you might as well fuck off now.
It's interesting to hear that from Edge's perspective, because Edge was
in the final four.
He was in the final three, I believe. Edge, and he got eliminated. He was actually in the perfect place to see that elimination, because he was sat right on the floor, right in front of him, and you can see him walking back to the through the curtain as Vince McMahon comes out, and he is not happy. He's just so not happy. But anyway,
he slides into the ring in just the weirdest way. He goes knees first. Right? He completely clatters the ring.
It's the second calamitous entrance into a ring that I've seen watching the 2000 Royal Rumbles, because Pete Gas is the other famous one who tried to get into the ring in 2000 even though he wasn't part of it, and ended up breaking his nose on the ropes, because I think Joey Abs, he kicked him with his leg as he sort of tried to get in, broke his nose on the ropes, and then Bradshaw absolutely annihilated him as well. If you've got a broken nose and you want to hide it,
the last person you want to come across is Bradshaw.
Yeah, the last person is Bradshaw.
And in 2001, I know it was 2001 where Funaki died.
Taka.
Watching that back, Jerry Lawler
It's the funniest thing. Funniest thing he's ever seen. They replayed it about 10 times.
JR even called him xenophobic because of it, so it was quite funny. But one thing I did want to mention about this Rumble was actually the commentary. It's Taz and JR, and actually I think that really, really helps it, because it's a SmackDown versus Raw kind of dynamic.
That was one of the things I was going to say.
When you end up with Batista and John Cena as your final two, you've got one rooting for one and one rooting for the other. It really added to it, so kudos to them.
So that was one of the things I wanted to say about this one. Was it was one of the early instances of a SmackDown Raw split in a Rumble match, and I don't like it when it's too much and too strong, where you've got the commentators being too biased towards their brand, especially like you get that sometimes at Survivor Series. But I do like the element of them slightly rooting for their guy a bit more, but can also like be impartial where needed. Like I think when Simon Dean came out or something, I think JR being like, I don't claim this guy, basically.
It just shows how commentary can make or break a Royal Rumble.
Yeah, well, how many times do you remember famous calls from matches in general? Like, it's part of the. It's what I think JR says is the lyrics to the music that the wrestlers compose. So, it can.
Before I end up on this one, I just want to give you some very interesting facts I found out. So, this Royal Rumble was actually the first which had a final four fully consisting of people who had never ever won a world championship in any promotion. So, the final four being Cena, Batista, Edge, and Rey Mysterio. None of them had won any world championships anywhere. The other fact I wanted to go through was a really unusual kind of streak between sort of the area of 2005 to Aiden's era that he's going to mention from 2010, which was that every runner-up from 2005 to 2010 ended up in a WrestleMania title match anyway. So, maybe the second prize wasn't the worst. I mean, if you look at it from then on, Randy Orton in 2006, Shawn Michaels in 2007, Triple H in 2008, Triple H in 2009, he actually won the belt before WrestleMania, so it was in the WrestleMania match, and Cena with Batista in 2010, so, weird streak.
It's a product, I guess, or byproduct of the brand split, isn't it? Where it was very rare where two members of the same brand would be the final two. So likelihood is whoever doesn't win, you still came out on top for your brand in a way. So you're in a good position to go on and put yourself in a prominent position for Mania.
Yeah. But yeah, that was 2005 for me. I love 2001. In fact, every Rumble I watched, even 2000 was even more fun and memorable than I remember it being, if that makes any sense. From 2005, I'd say up to 2007, they were all very, very good Rumbles.
Up to and including?
Yes, including.
Yeah, definitely. It went through a bit of a, resurgence in the 2000s, especially around the Ruthless Aggression era. I think the brand split helped. You get the top guys minus the title matches. You get the top guys from each brand in the Royal Rumble matches. So yeah.
I also think the WrestleManias got bigger, so it meant more. The Royal Rumble meant more.
Yeah, more impetus.
They made too much more out of the fact that the Rumble winner goes to WrestleMania for the main event. The first one was '93, wasn't it? I believe, with Matchman and Yokozuna at the end, where the reward was to go to the main event of Royal Rumble. But from that point onwards, they didn't really touch on it too much up until sort of 97, and then from that point onwards, it was just the main focus of the thing.
And also, more often than not, if you win the Royal Rumble match to go to the main event of WrestleMania, you were in the main event of WrestleMania. It wasn't it's a lot more common these days for the Royal Rumble winner to be in the first match of Mania or midway through the card or something like that.
Famous.
Yeah, exactly. Or Seth Rollins, for example, which, to be fair, was only a plan made about an hour before the show. So it felt like a bit more of a big deal. I think that's a good run, probably an underrated one you don't see a lot of people talk about. The thing you probably see most from that is either the finish botch or the Snitsky clothesline. So doesn't quite get the attention I think it deserves, that one. Right, well, thanks guys for your inputs and your opinions. I am going to move on to the 2010s now and prove to you why my match is the best. Prove to you why my one is better. So
you've got a good few options, to be fair.
There's a good few options. I felt like, especially throughout the first half of the 2010s, it kind of fell off a bit. Too many pointless legend returns, or they experimented with a 40-man rumble, which was wank. It just didn't quite feel the same as it did, and then you had the whole Blue-Tista or Boo-Tista incident.
Who would want to be in that night?
I think Daniel Bryan. But yeah, there's a few decent ones to choose from, but the Royal Rumble matches definitely in the last couple of years have gotten, I think, considerably better. It seems like they've paid more attention to it again. So the one that I've gone for was one that we all watched together in a bar in Milton Keynes, where both Ali and I live. I'm going to go for the 2018 Royal Rumble. The men's Royal Rumble specifically, because this is the first instance where there was also a women's Rumble. I remember while watching it, turning to Ali at the time and saying, "This is a really good Rumble," and it felt like the first really good one in a while. I thought I'll go through why it was good. I rewatched it just the other day, obviously in preparation for this, and made some notes. One of the things I think is really good about it is I don't know how much you guys remember from it. Probably not.
Surprisingly a lot, actually, considering how much was drunk at the time.
I was going to say, I drank a lot that night and I don't remember a lot about it.
Well, one of the things I completely forgot, and it all came flooding back to me when I watched this, was, so they do the rules, and then they say, here's entrant number 1, and then all you hear is Aiden in English. And the crowd just loses their mind. And I forgot, fucking hell, Rusev Day. Like, I completely forgot about that. And just how how over.
Yeah, that was a thing.
It was crazy how hot the crowd, and this was in Philly as well, so obviously helps the crowd.
Good crowd.
Green t-shirt guy was there as always.
Fuck him.
But yeah. So we start off with Rusev, number 1, introduced by Aiden English. Rusev Day, the crowd was nuts for. Finn Balor in at number 2. And I kind of forgot until now, not forgot that he did it, but seeing it with a crowd makes you really remember how awesome his babyface entrance was, with the whole lights and things and the arms in the air. And like when a crowd is into it, it's fucking awesome. This match is also good because there's a Spurs fan in the front row wearing a Spurs shirt. So I don't think any of yours has that.
No, I just got a weird Stevie Richards looking guy at the back of one of mine doing some weird Jeff Hardy movements with his hands at one point, completely taking away from the action in the ring.
Was it not just Stevie Richards? Because he...
No, it wasn't.
Do you remember the John Morrison guy?
Yeah.
He always used to dress as John Morrison and do the...
Great dedication to his act, to be fair.
His gimmick. So yeah, crowd was hot all the way throughout. It's in Philly, so obviously Rhino makes an appearance. Crowd like that. Corbin comes in. Corbin comes in after. The crowd boo the shit out of Baron Corbin, and he also eliminates Rhino. So there's massive boos for him, and then Balor eliminates him, and obviously the crowd go nuts. And this is where the funny bit comes in. So Baron Corbin obviously gets really pissed off, has a hissy fit a la Hulk Hogan. He takes everyone out. He takes out Balor, he takes out Rusev, he takes out the other person in the match. Can't remember who it was. Then the countdown comes, and here comes Heath Slater. And I remember the reaction to this story that plays out while we were watching this. Heath Slater comes out, cocky as hell because everyone's knocked out. He's thinking, this is great, this is my opportunity. Turns around and gets completely walloped by Baron Corbin. And is down for however many minutes. So you'd think there'd be a bit of a lull with no one being in the ring and nothing going on. But the time between Baron Corbin taking him out and the next entrant is very short. It feels shorter than it actually is. Because the next entrant who comes out is Elias. And this is at like peak heel Elias playing up against the crowd. And as he's playing the guitar down to the ring, he kicks Heath Slater on the way down.
I remember that, yeah.
He gets into the ring, he starts cutting a promo, and he does a song about how he spat on the Rocky statue, and the crowd go nuts. And it just made me remember how easy it is to wind up American crowds.
Yeah.
So yeah,
So easy to wind up.
it was good for Elias to get a bit of a solo spotlight. It was quite unique as well that like everyone's still out at this point until the countdown comes on, and who comes out? Andrade for his main roster debut, who previously just defended the NXT title in WWE's first 5-star match in 20 years. Which is...
I got it right.
Yeah, which is crazy. Bray Wyatt comes out at 8. I really miss old Bray Wyatt. I love the Fiend now, but I really miss old Bray Wyatt. He was one of the things that hooked me back in. He takes out Heath Slater on the way down. Ty Dillinger comes in at 10 again.
Obviously.
For the second year in a row, but he gets taken out backstage before he comes down, so his music hits, but he doesn't come out. He gets taken out backstage by Sammy and Kevin Owens. And it made me do a bit of maths in my head. And Sami Zayn's been a heel in the main roster now for nearly 3.5 years, which is about as long, if not longer, than he was a babyface for. Which is weird, because I always think of Sami Zayn as like perennial babyface, but not. He takes out Kevin Owens, and that's funny how their roles are switched now as well. How KO is the good, is like uber babyface, and Sami is one of the main heels. So Sami enters the match on Ty Dillinger's behalf, which Byron Saxton is very furious about. And
Shut up, Byron.
Shut up, Byron.
Jerry Lawler is on commentary for this match with Corey and Byron and Michael Cole. And earlier in the match, Corey was talking about like how I've got to work with this guy and whatever, and Byron's really annoying. And Jerry Lawler says, I used to work with JR, or Jim Ross. We called him by his initials, JR, so you can call Byron by his, BS. Which in itself is a relatively funny line. Then later on in the show, when Cena's in the match, which we'll get to, Jerry Lawler's talking about Cena doesn't have to do this. He doesn't have to be in this match. He's got the movies, he's got Hollywood, he's got all of this. And while he's saying that, Corey chimes in and basically tries to make the same point that Jerry Lawler's making, but faster. So he's like, yeah, but he wants to because he's a winner, he's a champion at the end. And King thinks that as Byron. He's like, yeah, that's exactly what I'm trying to say. Shut up, BS. And Byron, Corey, and Michael Cole at the same time all just go, what? It's just really awkward, but really funny. So yeah, bit of a commentary bants there.
Love a bit of commentary bants.
Love it. Sheamus comes out. Sammy comes down and takes out Heath Slater on the way down. Sheamus comes out, he picks up Heath, gets him back into the ring. Heath Slater turns around and immediately eliminates Sheamus. The crowd goes insane. Sheamus is literally in for less than 2 seconds. And I remember turning to you and Ali, because this was around the time of reports where Sheamus's spinal stenosis came out, before he was going to have to imminently retire. But I remember turning to Ali, we both just went, yeah, he's done. Like, he obviously can't wrestle, because they've given him 2 seconds, although he did have a tag title match later on that night. But yeah, how wrong we were. He's still knocking about 3 years on. Yeah, that was a great moment. He's taking him out, he's celebrating in the ring, and then Bray Wyatt just hits him with Sister Abigail and takes him out. Apollo Crews comes in, and the crowd boo the shit out of Apollo Crews for some reason. He was part of Titus Worldwide at this point, but he wasn't a heel. Nobody cared.
You know why they booed him?
Go on.
Apollo boos.
So, Cruz can't lose, and they just assumed he was going to be winning.
Crews gets boos. He got a lot of them. It was completely unexpected. I wasn't expecting a huge reaction for him, but I wasn't expecting him to be booed loudly. Yeah, Philly not a big fan of Apollo Crews. Do you know who does get a huge pop though? The next entrant, Shinsuke Nakamura. He comes in at number 14, which is quite relatively early.
Didn't one of us have this as...
So this is one of the things that made this Rumble really good, was that we obviously had we picked 3 different people to win. And all three of our predictions were in the final 4. So you picked Roman Reigns, Matt, I think. Ali picked Nakamura, and I picked Finn Balor. So when Finn Balor came in at number 2, I was like, well, fuck. Then he ended up getting to the final 4. So that and also being kind of tipsy helps you get really invested into a Rumble match.
Yeah, but didn't we have it as, I'm sure we won money.
Won money on a quiz. I don't know if we won.
Won money the year.
In 2019.
Seth Rollins.
I knew we'd won something.
That was a good night.
We won some money.
So at this point when Nakamura comes in, there's 10 men in the ring. And I actually quite like that, at least at one point in the Rumble when it's quite crowded, there's a lot of people in there. Sometimes it's good when you kind of have 1 or 2 in at a time and they're constantly chucking each other out and all that kind of stuff. But I like also when there is a bit of crowding going on, and especially when someone comes in and then clears house because it makes them look awesome. Michael Cole was at his worst for stats in this match. Like within half a second of someone's music hits, he's giving stats about them. Like, just give it a second to breathe. At least pretend you're trying to find your notes for that person. Or
Wait till they get in the ring.
Yeah, just make it a bit more real. It was Kofi Kingston before you hear Big E saying it's a new day. Yes, it is. Michael Cole's words, oh, this is incredible. This is Kofi Kingston's 12th Royal Rumble or something like that. I was like, how you don't know that off the top of your head, and you wouldn't know it in 0.5 seconds of hearing his music hit. It pissed me off. And he also did that thing where he calls Shinsuke Shin all night. And, noisy. I wonder if Nakamura calls him Mike.
Probably not. He probably doesn't talk to him.
Yeah, he's not good.
Maybe the fuck does.
in comes Seth Rollins with Burn It Down. A huge reaction. Forgot like how cool that was. And then this is also the scene. So what we became accustomed to throughout the 2010s was incredible survivals by the likes of John Morrison and Kofi Kingston, and then subsequently Naomi as well. Can anyone remember Kofi Kingston's win this year?
Was it the Big E one?
The Big E one, or where he was on his shoulders?
Yeah.
No, that was 2016. Ali, do you remember?
The one where he bounces on the chair?
No, that was years ago.
How was it?
This one was, so Jinder comes in, he eliminates Xavier, he eliminates Big E, he eliminates Kofi, or so you think. This is like 2 or 3 minutes after Xavier's been eliminated, but Kofi's foot lands on Xavier's chest, and Xavier's like, no, you're not going out like this, you're not going out like this. Big E comes out with a plate of pancakes, and they put his foot on the pancakes, so he's only got 1 foot touching the ground. And then they do a gymnastics lift where they jump him all the way from the floor outside the ring, all the way into the ring over Jinder. Hit Jinder with a Trouble in Paradise and eliminates him. It was insane.
I'm going to put it out there. Don't like that.
It's very gimmicky.
It's not a spirit competition.
It's very silly.
No, it's not.
No, but
No, I don't mind seeing it. Like seeing it once is unique, but then
when they make it like when you expect something, you've got to try and top it every year and stuff. And you've had him like jump from the barricade. He's done a handstand walk all the way. He's done some crazy things. And I think like last year he didn't do one, but he just got chucked out by Lesnar.
Well, this year it's going to be pre-recorded, so he's going to jump from gorilla position all the way through.
Well, he's not in it this year.
Run.
Got broken jaw.
He's not in it. How do you know his replacement is, Matt? You know if you were watching these days.
Yeah, I haven't watched for a long time.
Replacement is
Ali.
Mustafa Ali.
Ali's his replacement.
Oh.
But nice little callback to the start of Kofi Mania.
Yes.
So yeah, that's the story that they're going through at the moment. Is he's going after the New Day. Kofi's injured at the moment and wants to make Kofi feel how he felt when he missed out on his supposed title match.
Xavier Woods getting his ass kicked every week now.
Yeah. So back to 2018 quickly. John Cena comes in at 20. This match has got quite the star power in it. But he comes in because the field is cleared out a bit at this point. He comes in. He's surrounded by Finn Balor, Rollins, Elias, Shinsuke, and Andrade. They all circle him and beat him up, and the crowd go nuts, which was good to see.
Good to see.
Hurricane in at 21 for some reason. The crowd go nuts, but he's eliminated by Cena very quickly. Adam Cole in at number 3. Crowd at number 23. Crowd goes nuts again. Orton in at 24, another big name. Eliminates Almas, and the Marks boo it, as if that was a bad thing, to getting eliminated by 13, 14-time world champion. And then, one of the things that I forgot that this was a thing at the time, and completely didn't expect it at the time, Rey Mysterio returned at number 27 and looked phenomenal.
Yeah.
Crowd go insane.
I fucking hate Rey Mysterio.
You know, I don't, but there must have been a part of you like at that time, because there was
because I fucking hate Rey Mysterio. I've never liked Rey Mysterio.
I don't even recall, because it's hard to get like 100% shocked by wrestling. I don't ever even recall seeing a thing on Twitter or anything saying Rey Mysterio reportedly in talks or anything like that. And when
that was really surprising.
I was well shocked, and yeah, he came out and he was in great shape. He eliminates Adam Cole, which, to be fair, I bet Adam Cole was buzzing about, being someone who I'm sure was a huge fan. Roman Reigns in at number 28, and the crowd hates Roman Reigns. Like, it's funny, it's easy to forget, not that I forgot when there's no crowd, but it's easy to forget just how much of the crowd would boo him, especially when you're in an area like Philly.
I can't believe how much in 1 year he went from the crowd wanting him to win to the crowd shitting all over him.
It's insane. And when you think about his...
That's not Daniel Bryan would say. Tickle.
And when you think about his Rumble record as well, in 2014 he was runner-up, 2015 he won, 2016 he came third, 2017 he was runner-up, 2018 he was runner-up, in 2020 he was runner-up. I can't remember what he did in 2019, but it's insane. Oh, yeah, leukemia.
He
wasn't there. But yeah, his Rumble record in the match is insane, as well as also then as holding the then record for most eliminations. Well, I think it might still be the record.
Actually, no, Lesnar broke it last year.
Was it what, 13? I think Reigns got 12, something like that.
Yeah.
Don't count Braun Strowman in the Greatest Royal Rumble.
Nobody does.
Especially when there's 50 people. But anyway, he eliminates Seth Rollins, does Roman Reigns. And there's a bit of a turn. Seth Rollins is like, "Oh, you naughty."
Did he go with the accent as well, didn't he?
Yeah. Yeah, apparently so. The camera's picked up. It was difficult to see though, because Kevin Dunn cut away and cut back to it about 16 times in 4 seconds. Then we get to big number 30. Crowd counting down. Everyone's excited. Who's it going to be? Dolph Ziggler.
Fucking Dolph Ziggler.
Back in December prior, had won the United States Championship and went, I don't want this, and retired. So he gets checked out. The final 6 are Balor, Reigns, Nakamura, and Cena, Orton, and Mysterio. And you get a standoff between new and old, basically, which I thought was a really cool story. How you got like these 3 legends, basically, and 2 indie darlings and Roman Reigns. It was quite a cool story. Randy gets chucked out, Ray gets chucked out. Then you have indie faves versus Vince faves of Cena and Reigns kind of teaming up against Balor and Nakamura. It's been a while since Oh yeah, it was great. The crowd were ridiculous. Especially when Cena and Reigns, whenever they would have a moment where they'd have a stare off or whatever, the crowd just go, "You both suck." they weren't having it. But it's been a while since I've watched the Cena match. Like I kind of forgot just how bad his spot calling can be sometimes.
Never watched one of his matches on headphones.
Yeah. It's really frustrating to me because he doesn't try and hide it or cover it up, and he's so loud. Balor gets chucked out 57 minutes. Go on, sorry.
I found out in the 90s as well. I never knew what it was when I was a kid, spot calling. But if you listen to it through headphones now, you can go, "Yeah, throw me out now." You're like, "Whoa!"
Yeah, apparently one of the main reasons why they have long hair is so it's easier to cover their faces when they want a spot call. But yeah, Balor gets chucked out by Cena, which the crowd hate. Nakamura eliminates Cena, which the crowd love. And then Roman and Shinsuke, I think, were the perfect final 2 for this, because you could see either one of them realistically winning. And they went for a good 5 minutes nearly of just the final 2. And I love a final 2 that goes a while and feels like a match, where you kind of forget a little bit that it's about chucking each other out rather than pinning or anything like that. And then there's a really good final sequence where Roman goes for a spear and Shinsuke ducks it or whatever, and then he hits the Kinshasa and picks him up, chucks it out, crowd go insane, and then challenges AJ Styles right there and then, which was the match that at the time everybody wanted. And yeah, I just thought from start to finish.
I don't remember it being that great though, at the Mania.
Oh yeah, forget the subsequent matches that came from that, but the Royal Rumble match itself, I thought that year was, from start to finish, really just really strong and had a really good thread going all the way through it. A winner that almost everybody wanted, which was one of the first times that happened in quite a while, because they seem to go, "Oh, you want so and so to win? They're not even going to be in it." So yeah, I think it's a very, very strong Rumble, and definitely one of my favourites of all time, let alone just of that decade. So that's my pick.
Good pick. I mean, my memories of it are very similar. You were describing the atmosphere at 11 being so amazing for the final 4, specifically the final 2.
the atmosphere in that bar was so tense. Every time they went near the ropes, it was like, "Don't you fucking dare! Don't you fucking dare!"
Don't you dare win.
And then I remember resigning myself to the point, going, "I bet they're going to do it. They're going to do it, aren't they?"
Yeah.
Fuck.
I think there was people in the bar who they were almost like head in hands, like, oh, they're going to make Reigns win again. Like, oh, it's just the worst thing that could ever possibly happen. And then for Shinsuke to win out of that, it was certainly a memorable night.
Yeah, great night overall. Good memories, good laugh. Probably the last time I went to a bar. Feels like it anyway. But yeah, so those are our 3 rumbles across the decades. Let us know what one of ours you think is the best, and also if you've got any others that we haven't mentioned. It'd be good to hear your thoughts and opinions on them.
Maybe we should wrong, but
We'll listen.
we'll listen.
Yeah, well, listen, but you're wrong.
Mark it as red.
We're the experts here. Again, experts.
So we've done a bit of a chat about Royal Rumbles of the past and conscious of time, obviously. But
I think at this point we should acknowledge Pat Patterson.
yes, definitely.
Very topical.
The supposed creator of the Royal Rumble concept, the Royal Rumble match, unfortunately passed away earlier this year. Not this year, late last year. I think. I can't even remember. I don't know what time it is anymore.
I think it was December, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think it was.
Just before Christmas, I think. It's obviously a shame. Nothing but kind words from people who worked with him over the years. Massive shout out to old Pat for creating my favourite match type.
Yeah, that's an absolute genius idea. Genius.
And was poo-pooed by Vince.
Those things were.
Still
And now
are.
he's making millions.
If you can get an idea through Vince and it become a success despite his protestation, then you're doing something right.
So much so.
You're doing something right.
So much so when Vince decides to make himself win it.
It's such a big thing to do.
That's the
And so Vince,
power move. But yeah, so we've discussed Royal Rumbles of the past. What we're going to move on now for the rest of the show. Move on to is the Royal Rumble coming up in just a couple of days at this point. So we've only got one show left between now and the Royal Rumble, that being SmackDown. We've also got NXT, but a bit iffy at the moment. So what I wanted to do was, I'm not going to go through predictions of the whole Rumble card. I just wanted to make some specific predictions about the Royal Rumble match itself, both Royal Rumble matches. So I've got about 10 or 11 possible points that we can get. And I just wanted to...
Are we not picking numbers out of the hat?
Well, I'm not going to make
You
it...
forgot a hat, didn't you?
I'm not going to make it random.
you've got to have that.
Got no fucking paper though.
So basically
I
what...
mean, I can pick them out. Ali, you've got number 1. Hey, you've got number 2.
So...
You yourself number 27 by any chance?
Yeah, 27's mine.
Right. Anyway, no, we're not doing random numbers out of a hat. Well, I'll touch on the numbers in a bit. What I have done is, when I should have been working today, I spent a while basically going through the last 10 or technically 9 Royal Rumble matches, determining what number the winner came in at, how long they were in it, what number the Iron Man or woman came in at, how long they were in it, what the maximum number of eliminations were, and then figuring out averages to try and maybe influence my decisions. I just spent all that time trying to influence my decisions with the statistics and then just went against them when making my predictions, so it's a bit of a waste of time. But in case you're interested, the average entrant of the last 9 winners is 20 for the men, 23 for the women, so about 22 in total. There's a bit of difference between the entrant numbers of the Iron Men and Iron Women. for the last 2 years, the Ironman has been the winner. So Drew McIntyre and Seth Rollins, both at 16 and 10 respectively. But before that, it was either 2, 1, or 5, which is no surprise really. For the women, the Ironman has either been number 1 or number 2 for every Royal Rumble match, which is only 3, but could be an indication of where they're going to go this year.
Usually the women's doesn't last as long as the men's, does it?
Not quite.
Well, what's quite interesting is when you look at the average Ironman time, for the men of the last 9 Rumbles, the average Ironman time is 49 minutes and 35 seconds, where for the women it's 48 minutes and 45 seconds, so only a 50-second difference. And the average number of max eliminations in a one match for men is 7, and for women it's 6. So quite similarly booked, really, in a way. So what I wanted to do our predictions on was, so I'll make a start now. We'll start with the women's match. Who do you think is going to get the most eliminations?
Shayna Baszler.
Okay, I'm going to fill these in. There we go.
I would be tempted to go with Bianca Belair.
Good shout.
You tempted to go for Belair, or are you going?
Yeah, I'll go with Bianca Belair.
Okay. I'm torn between 2.
I was torn between Nia Jax, to be fair.
I initially thought Nia Jax, but I thought usually
they're not eliminating each other.
Yeah, and usually someone who eliminates the most amount of people tends to be in it for a while, for the most part.
Yeah, maybe she's not gonna.
I can't imagine they'll put her in anywhere before 25 or something. So the 2 that I was debating between was Bianca Belair and Rhea Ripley. I thought, I don't think she's been seen in NXT since New Year's Evil. I don't think.
I don't think so.
Which would give them 3 weeks of her maybe quarantining or doing whatever the logistics is behind the COVID protocols. And she's of a big enough stature physically and athletically to be the kind of person who could come in quite early and eliminate a lot of the Dana Brooks and stuff. So I was torn between the 2. I've decided to go for Rhea Ripley in the end. It's a bit of a gamble because we know that Bianca's in it, and we don't know for sure whether Rhea will be. But I think it's only a matter of time, really, because I don't think there's anything left for her in NXT. So that is my choice. So we've got 3 different ones there. The next one, is sticking with the women, is what will be the maximum number of eliminations by one person. So it doesn't have to be by that person that you picked to be the most, to eliminate the most people, but just what is the number who you think will be the most?
This is based on absolutely zero research or facts, but I imagine the record for eliminations in the women's is lower than the men's, fairly significantly.
The record was gained last year by both Bianca and Shayna, who eliminated 8 each. Bianca came in at number 2 and eliminated 8, whereas Shayna came in at 27, something like that, and just cleaned house. So 8 for the women, which, to be fair, for the men, only twice in the last 9 years has gone above 7.
I'm going to go 9 for the women.
9, interesting.
I'm kind of thinking that we're not going to see a record set this year, so I think I would go 7. 7,
okay. Well, I've gone for 6, because I can't agree with you. I think 6 is a good amount, 6, 7 around about that area, but I don't think we'll see any records because there's not any particular clear standout favourite or anyone like that. You'd imagine maybe someone like Nia Jax normally, but the big people never tend to do well in a Rumble. So,
Exactly.
Apart from Kane in 2001.
Moving on to the men, so we've got the same for men. So who do you think will?
So we're not going to go winner.
Well, there's a whole bunch of things. I'm going to alternate between women and men throughout.
Oh, okay.
So the next one is the same 2 questions, but for men. So who's going to get the most eliminations, and what number will that be? you'll still get the point for, say, Ali predicted 7. If it is 7, but it's done by someone who isn't Bianca Belair, you'll still get that 1 point. So they don't have to be by that person. So for the most eliminations for men, again, I was torn between 2. I was torn between Keith Lee and Bobby Lashley. Now, I've gone for a bit of a gamble this time, and I've decided to go for Bobby Lashley. But I think it would be a really good idea for them to make him look as good as they can as United States champion. They've been kind of building him up that he's the one from the Hurt Business that's in the Rumble, assuming the others aren't. I don't know. It makes sense if they were, because then they can team up. But yeah, I've gone for Bobby Lashley, and I've gone for 7 for the men.
I'll go 8 Keith Lee then. I was going to go Bobby Lashley, but I'll go Keith Lee.
Yeah, Bobby Lashley was my first thought, because I was looking through the list, and I was like, I have no idea who it would be. And Keith Lee at the moment isn't confirmed for it, at least not according to the list on Wikipedia. But he surely will be. So, yeah, I reckon he'd be a good shout for holding the record this year.
I think in the interest of going for someone different than you guys, because Bobby Lashley probably would have been my first choice as well. Those eliminations. It's a tough one. I mean, there's quite a few choices to be fair. It's very unpredictable, this Rumble. I think Randy Orton's a choice.
Randy tends to do well with eliminations. He never gets a record, but he tends to always kind of get around 5-6.
Has to do well. Is it a stretch to say that maybe Braun Strowman will be back by then?
Essentially, I've got no idea what's going on with Strowman at the moment. I don't know if he's injured, or if he's just taking time off. They haven't mentioned him in a while. I can't even remember the last time we saw him. So
I can imagine he'll be there.
Yeah, I think
it's a gamble, but it could be one that pays off.
I'll go with gamble. I'm going to go Braun.
Okay, so you're going Braun Strowman, and how many do you think he or someone else will get?
10.
10. Yeah. Interesting. So you've gone for the left field choice and also the most amount of eliminations, so could pay off hugely. It might backfire massively. We shall
Probably
see.
will really fail, but yeah. That's the fun of the Rumble.
So moving on next to the Iron Woman category. So the three things to predict here are who the Iron Woman is, what number the Iron Woman will come in at. So it doesn't have to be what number your person is coming in at, just what number the overall Iron Woman is going to be. And then how long said Iron Woman will last. Whoever gets close.
This is.
Whoever gets it doesn't have to be. It doesn't have to be exact, but whoever gets closest will get the point for that. So first off, Matt, who do you think your Iron Woman is going to be?
Bianca Belair.
That's fair enough.
She'll come in at number 1.
Number 1, you reckon? Do you reckon she's coming in at this is important. Do you reckon she's coming in at number 1? So is that your Iron Woman entry number prediction?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, hold on. Have they not just done this yet?
It's on Saturday. They're announcing number 1 and 2 for the women's Rumble on backstage, and they're announcing number 30 for the men's Rumble, which is just ridiculous.
Oh, well, fuck. Yeah, go for it. Fuck it.
So you're going for Bianca Belair, number 1.
And 45 minutes. No. 48.
Just on the dot. I'm going for seconds as well.
48. 37.
38, 37.
I mean, if one of us predicts it, bang on.
Okay. I've decided to go for Bayley. I thought they're very keen on Bayley. She's a veteran that tends to be the kind of person that have go through a Rumble match. I've gone for Bayley, but I've not gone so early. I've gone for the Iron Woman will come in at number 8. and their duration will be 34 minutes and 16 seconds. I reckon Bailey would be the kind of person she'll come in at 8, get a couple of eliminations, a fair amount, and we'll get to probably about the final 4-ish. So yeah, 34 minutes, so not quite as long as Matt, but yeah, Bailey and number 8.
Well, I'm not changing my mind on this one. I'm definitely going Bailey for Iowa. I reckon she's coming in at number 4, and she's lasting 42 minutes and 10 seconds.
That was very quick.
Time to think about it.
Yeah, it was. For me, when I was picking Bailey, it was either going to be something like 8, 9, 10, or 3 or 4. But I decided I could picture her coming in a bit later on and kind of picking up a bit of scraps rather than fighting in valiantly as a babyface might. So yeah, that is our prediction for the Iron Woman. Now we move on to the Iron Man. Same 3 questions, same 3 picks. Ali, who are you going for Iron Man? I imagine, to be fair, I think we might all pick the same person.
Well, to be fair, I can't really think of anybody to pick for this one. The men's is so difficult. I reckon, although he's getting on a bit, I'm going to go with AJ. And I reckon he'll come in probably 7. And I think I don't think anyone will last massively long, but I reckon he'll be in there for 39 minutes.
On the dot?
Yes, on the dot, yeah.
Okay, 39 minutes on the dot. I've decided to go for Daniel Bryan.
Fuck you.
Done it once before.
Daniel Bryan in around number 5.
I've never fucked him before.
Contrary to what they might say.
It's just rumours.
Dirt sheets. Daniel Bryan in at number 5 for 47 minutes and 38 seconds is what I've gone for. I think
Daniel Bryan, 6. 43 minutes, 32.
Daniel Bryan at 6, 43 minutes, 32. Yeah, I think they made a big deal about him being in it. I don't see him winning it. I don't see him wanting to win it in real life. I think he's the kind of guy who wants to give that opportunity to others. So, yeah, I think Daniel Bryan as an Iron Man is a very good option, especially based off what he did in the Greatest Royal Rumble, where he almost got his chest split open. So, yeah, I think Daniel Bryan or AJ Styles is a good shout. They're the kind of men you'd expect, so we shall see. Now, this is where it gets slightly more interesting. We're gonna move on to winners now, but we're not gonna pick just yet the person. What we're gonna do is we're gonna pick. You get 3 choices of what number the winner is gonna come in at. You have to pick one number between 1 and 10, one between 11 and 20, and one between 21 and 30.
Okay, I've got mine.
Matt, we'll start with you.
So I've got 7.
Okay.
17.
Yep.
27.
For men or women?
Both.
Both. Fair enough. I did consider making it so like no one of us could pick the same number, but then I thought it would just get too complicated to keep up on.
And whoever goes last gets the done deal.
Well, yeah, exactly. So I'll allow it. Ali, are you going to go for separate numbers for men and women, or do you want to group them together?
Yeah, I'll go separate. I think for men, I'm going to go 9, 18, and 23.
Are you having a fucking laugh? Those are the exact same 3 numbers that I picked. Wait, was that for men or women?
That was for men.
Oh, okay, that's fine. I picked that for women.
So for women, I'm going to go 9, 18, and 23.
No, you're bloody well not.
No, I'm going to go for women. I would go 10.
10.
If that counts.
No.
Zero.
Yes, yes, it does. Yeah.
16,
20, 30.
and 29.
29. Interesting. Okay. So what I've gone for the women is 9, 18, and 23, as established, and for the men I've gone for 7, 15, and 21. Is as I mentioned, the average winner for the men over the last 9 years has come in at 20. So not quite as late as you'd expect. The latest winner that we've had was back in 2014 when Batista won at 28. Actually, no, Triple H won in 2016 at 30. So it does happen, but I'm not convinced this year. Although it'll completely depend on who they announce will be at 30.
Number 30,
I still can't believe they're doing.
So frustrating.
And it's going to be completely unavoidable as well, because all the way throughout the pay-per-view they're just going to remind you of so-and-so's coming in at 30. So yeah. Now we're moving on to our final predictions of the night. Final predictions of the pay-per-view, final predictions of the Rumble matches themselves. Who do you pick to win both Royal Rumble matches?
Take one.
I've got one. Keith Lee for the men's.
Okay.
And Rhea Ripley for the women's.
Interesting. Ali, do you have yours lined up, or do you want me to?
I've got one women's one. I'm going to go with Bayley to win the women's Royal Rumble. I just think Bayley versus Sasha at WrestleMania makes a lot of sense.
Easy story.
And for the men, not so easy to pick. It's a difficult one. I think WWE might try and throw a curveball in there as well. I don't know. Yeah, we heard the reports today about a scary ending. We don't know what the meaning of the word scary is in this context. So, it could be the Fiend, could be someone like Brock Lesnar. You never know. But just for argument's sake, I mean, I've been saying it for a while. Sasha, I don't think Bobby Lashley's going to win the Royal Rumble, but I feel like it's a good chance. I think it's going to be a Raw guy, and as such, I'm going to go with AJ Styles.
Interesting choice. I think it's a decent choice. Good shout. He's been on good form. Good form lately. I think he's like.
Will his bodyguard be in it?
No.
He won't be in here, or certainly stop him getting eliminated.
I was going to say I wouldn't be surprised if he captures him on the outside or something like that.
He's probably the least confident I've been in a Royal Rumble winner for a long time.
So this is the thing for me. I'm yet to decide. For my women's winner, I've gone for Bianca Belair because I think she's got pretty good momentum. They've just done a chronicle on her. The people want to see her and Sasha at Mania. I didn't really consider Rhea Ripley until now. I'm finding it hard to see anyone else. Bayley, I think if ever they were going to let a heel win, it would be this year when there's no crowd. So, not bad shout. As Ali was talking about his men's winner, I kind of made up my mind when you were talking about the whole scary report that's going around. I don't think it's scary as in spooky scary. I don't think it's scary as in the way an elimination will happen is scary, like a scary bump or something like that. What I think is going to happen is Drew McIntyre beats Goldberg.
If this happened, I will literally never watch wrestling again.
Like Goldberg wins the Rumble and challenges Roman Reigns to make up for not having their match at last year's Mania.
If this happens, you will not see me back on this podcast.
I wouldn't have picked this until this supposed scary finish report coming out today. I don't know who I would have gone for. I was having a look through the list of people, and you could go for Daniel Bryan. Like I said, I don't think he would want to win it. Same goes for Edge. So Edge is in the Rumble this year, but I would like to imagine that if he had any say in it, he would say, don't have me in the title match. Save it for someone else. Just put me in a good program. Whereas Goldberg's like, no, fuck that. Give me the title. He can come in at number, well, probably not number 30 if they're going to announce it, but he can come in late on at 29, headbutt all four of the ring posts, concuss himself out on the outside, and eventually work his way in to the ring. Yeah. He'll eliminate someone by actually killing them by accident.
I'm certainly now, if he wins, I am not watching wrestling ever again.
Yeah, you will.
As much as I would hate him to win it, I'm quite happy for him to be in it as long as I get to see him versus Riddle at some point.
Yes. And Riddle just absolutely abuses him.
I don't think they'd let that happen.
Go off script.
Really difficult Rumble to predict.
I'm enjoying it. The idea of not being able to predict who's going to win it, I'm now massively dreading it. And including the title match, it's been a long time since I've dreaded a title match so much. Because I can so easily see them going for Goldberg again. Be it
they've got no crowd, so they can do what they want.
Whether he beats McIntyre or whether he wins the Rumble. So
it doesn't surprise me anymore with Goldberg and WWE's booking of him. I mean, I was fairly certain he wasn't going to beat the Fiend Crown Jewel or whatever it was, and he did. So anything can happen.
Yeah.
And it probably will.
So yeah, on that scary note, I think we can wrap up our return. How'd it go? You reckon it went alright?
The second coming.
Yeah. Happy
It was
Valentine's Day.
wonderful.
Yeah, I thought it was okay. I think I did an alright job. I think we all it's gone pretty swimmingly until we'll have a look at the audio and find out nothing recorded.
I didn't mention it before, but I never get to host, so fuck you guys.
You can have the next one
Never
if
even
you
been
want.
asked.
We'll
Never even
rotate
been
it.
asked, people. Never even been asked.
I has asked in the past, to be fair. And
Only when he couldn't be asked.
well, like when Ali was away and we did the Lost episodes of just me and you that never made it till
The last episode was really good.
they
The
were
lost episodes you supposedly recorded.
technical difficulties. We had
They were
two
really good episodes. I mean,
2 weeks in a row that happened. It was unprecedented, you might say, in these times. But yeah, so if you ever do feel like hosting one, if you come up with an idea that you want to host, then just jump on. Let's go for it. That's that for this week's instalment of the PWP, the People's Wrestling Podcast. So we're going to be changing things up a little bit going forward. Previously, we were just doing kind of reviews of the Raw and SmackDowns and the pay-per-views and all that kind of stuff. We'll stick with the previews and reviews of pay-per-views, but we're
fuck Raw and SmackDown.
yeah, it's too much to do every week, and sometimes it's just not worth talking about.
Not enough hours in the day to get across all the content is there, so.
No, exactly. So we're going to be introducing some new ideas. What we're going to do next week, just a little tease to keep you interested. So obviously we'll record our quick Royal Rumble reaction, but we're also what we're gonna do, and this will be news to both of you, although we have previously discussed it, is we'll do a PWP out of the hat. So what that means is we will pick completely at random at the start of the episode, so none of us will know going in what we're going to be talking about. We'll pick a wrestler or a theme or a pay-per-view or literally anything to do with wrestling. Pick it out of a hat, talk about it for a while. It might be one thing over the course of one episode, depending on how much we've got to say. It might be multiple things, which I think might be quite fun.
If it's The Rock, we've got so much to talk about.
Yeah, exactly. So
I've got some good ones I reckon I can add to the hat.
So yeah, I think during the week, if we all stick some random things into a hat, some kind of online generator, I guess, I mean, we can all see it. Or we'll use Matt's actual physical hats that he owns, because I don't own any.
I've got just the solution, and just you wait.
Oh, okay.
Oh.
So So yeah, if that doesn't titillate you enough, then I don't know what will. So exactly. So so tune in next week for that, and also tune in at some point earlier in the week for our Royal Rumble reaction, where we might maybe be seeing the end of Matt as a wrestling fan as we know it. So
I'm not coming on. I'm telling you now. If that happens, I'm not coming on.
we'll just have a pre-recorded video from Matt, just saying his goodbyes. So yes, like I said, that's the end of the show. Thank you very much for listening or watching, whatever platform you're using. Don't forget to subscribe to either our YouTube at the People's Wrestling Podcast, or
do the whole like and subscribe, that thing.
yeah, I'll try and edit some things in. I've not done it before, so I might just leave it just as it is.
We don't do this.
Obviously, you can find us on Spotify, iTunes, or SoundCloud at the PWP or the People's Wrestling Podcast. You'll find us at both. You can find me personally on Twitter at Aidan Bunker. You can also find us as a whole on Twitter at @the_PWP. Same with Instagram, which I'm trying to revive, but I keep forgetting. Ali, where do if they want to find you personally on Twitter?
At AliBunker88.
Ali Bunker 88 and Matt.
Oh fuck! At the Bear and Bummy, yeah.
Yeah, this started out as a gimmick where Matt would forget his Twitter handle. It was very much a real thing.
So,
Yeah, the
and
Bear
I've changed
and
my
Bumper.
Twitter about 4 times. I have been banned from Twitter twice.
Oh dear. We'll play that for another episode. So yeah, like I said, thanks for joining us, and we will see you next time.